Right, so this is the story that, I guess not really a story, but something that happened yesterday that I thought was pretty interesting, and I think it shows where we're at in society, at least in the West nowadays. And it was Jagmeet Singh, who is the leader of the NDP Federal Party in Canada, which is at the moment the third biggest, or has the third most seats in Canadian Parliament. And up in the next election, it might go down to the fourth or fifth even, but we'll see. Um, but anyways, he's the leader of one of the biggest parties in Canada, and they're considered a pretty legitimate party. They are a left wing party, so obviously, I mean, you'll be able to tell. But he basically tweeted yesterday, praising or not. He did like a whole rest in peace, and kind of praising Fidel Castro. And this is Maxime Bernier, who's the leader of the PPC, who tweeted out, reminder: in Canada, you can explicitly praise a communist, tyrant, and murderer, and the media won't bother you for this. They keep implying that you're an extremist only if you fight for freedom, smaller guns, or smaller government, not guns, and equal rights for all. And that is really the state we're at in Canada. And I mean, if you're American, you probably understand this because the political landscape is almost the exact same in both countries. I would argue in Canada it might actually be worse because I think in the U.S. there's a lot more people that are awake, given the just an example of Trump's support compared to in Canada Trudeau's support, which is still surprisingly high. But that's another story in and of itself. But number one, this shows just again the millionth example of the double standard in politics nowadays. If you're on the left, you can praise a communist dictator and no one questions you. But if you're on the right and you even mention a fascist or some right wing dictator, horrible political leader, and you even mention them anything, even something that's even not overly critical. You can say that, talk about them in a way that's neither positive nor negative, and they'll still claim that you're supporting this person and you're a Nazi, you're a racist and whatnot. But if you're on the left, you can do it. You can praise the worst of the worst, pretty much. I mean, aside from Stalin and Pol Pot, those kind of guys, uh, Fidel Castro was about as bad as they came, basically. And no one will call you on it. Like, imagine if Maxime Bernier talked about Hitler in a way that wasn't completely calling him the worst guy ever. People would be all over him. He'd be probably banned from Twitter and Facebook and every social media platform, all this stuff. But and for the people out there who still think that there's no bias, like I say in a lot of these videos, like what more could it possibly take for you to not acknowledge this? Like that's the one thing that I really can't stand about people in the middle who ignore this kind of stuff is that they have this idea, like I've said, that both sides are roughly is equal or is responsible for the bad stuff and the good stuff in society and all that kind of BS. And roughly, they have this idea that the people on the right are just as tribal as the people on the left, and it's simply not true. Yes, there's tribal people on the right. Yes, the right is responsible for a lot of bad stuff that's happened politically, geopolitically, economically, all that stuff, but it's not nearly the same. Like, not nearly the same. And this is, like I said, the millionth example. And I think it's the people who have that opinion, they're the people that still were really susceptible to the brainwashing of the public schools, of the media, and all that stuff. But they're smart enough to recognize that it's probably BS, but they're not smart enough to recognize that because that where that there's that it's biased. They think that it's just programming. It's not true, but they don't realize that it's overwhelmingly leftist. They fail to draw the connect. They draw the connection that it's probably not the best education and whatnot, and that it's brainwashing and stuff. But they don't draw the connection that it's left wing. And like I said, like if Trump did something like this to any, maybe not a Hitler, but I don't know who it would be, but it would be national news, wall to wall, like every hour. It would be the first story in every country, in Canada, the U.S., Europe, all this stuff would be talking about it. And something like this happens, and it's not even news whatsoever. Like I haven't seen it anywhere other than conservative, more right wing people talking about it, and it like I said, it's the state of where we're at in Canada, and to a lesser degree the U.S. and it's insane, and it it's just off the charts. And that, like he says, that they'll implying that you're an extremist if you fight for freedom, smaller government, and equal rights for all, not equity, which is forced equality. Um, that you're an extremist. And like I said, in Canada, there's been hit pieces run constantly on the PPC, and to a lesser degree the Conservatives, but the Conservatives aren't really conservative, and that's pretty much the only reason why people run hit pieces on them, is because they're conservative in name only. Really, they're like the rhinos in the U.S. Almost exactly the same, except I think Scheer is even worse than, to be honest, because the rhinos in the U.S. tend to be just warmongers. In Canada, he's like Scheer literally could have ran as a liberal or a Democrat like 10 or 20 years ago, and his policies, you wouldn't even question it. Like, definitely not. I know a lot of people, they have, like, they say they're so tribal and that they think that he's a conservative. Like, oh, no, 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 no. But you look at his policies. Like, socially, he's more to the left than Obama was when he got elected. He's probably comparable to what a Paul Martin was back in the day in Canada. Like, if you're to the left of Obama socially, at least in his first term, then you could run as a liberal. And as far as I can say, they're not really pro-war. They're 110% on board that climate change is a huge issue. All this stuff, but that's getting into another topic. I don't want to make this video too long, but it really bothers me that there's so few people out there that recognize where the spot that we're at in society now. And I think a lot of the people, it's just they don't really care and they don't want to get involved, and it's because a lot of people nowadays really live pretty meaningless lives, and they substitute the meaninglessness for, and when you're young it's drinking and partying, and when you're older it's going out for supper and having friends over and gossiping and stuff like that. But it just really bothers me, and that there's so few people that actually recognize this stuff, and it's something that sooner or later as a society we're gonna have to deal with, because everybody, like a lot of people, they notice this stuff, but they, like I said, they put it off because no one wants meaning, and but no one wants to do the hard work. I guess everybody wants meaning, I guess is the better way to put it, but the problem is that if you want to have your life to have true, lasting meaning, you really have to put yourself out there and be willing to be rejected, to be smeared, all this kind of stuff. And it's a lot easier to just live the party lifestyle when you're young, and then as you get older, just substitute it in with friends, and I guess you have kids and stuff maybe, but like trying to deal with this kind of stuff like what the PPC is doing in Canada it's really hard, because everybody wants to feel like like I said, their life has meaning. The problem is that when it comes to the political realm, everyone wants to feel like they're doing something. And the problem is you can choose to go after or do something that really does not matter. Like, you can make your entire life about, women's rights when they already have more rights than men, in every way, shape, or form, too measurable. Even in the past, it wasn't nearly as bad as what they tell you. Or, like I said, you can commit your life to fixing something that isn't a problem, so you feel good about yourself. Or you can fix a problem that actually is a problem. The difference is that you're going to be attacked, you're going to be smeared, and all that stuff. So people don't want to do it. They want the praise, but they don't want the hard work. Basically, is the reasoning behind it. It's why you have all the politicians on the left, namely Justin Trudeau in Canada, who virtue signaling is like their middle name, where that's literally all they can do, and they're looking out for every possible scenario they can to virtue signal. But that's about it as far as this video goes. I think I talked about it quite a bit, so I'll leave it there. If you liked the video, make sure to hit that like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more.